Good greetings, hello and welcome to PowerDrift. Now we've all seen a lot of Honda cars. They're flying out there on the road by the plenty. But if you notice carefully, Honda never really had an entry-level SUV. A segment which grew by 43% in India last year, says Honda, a segment where the Dusters and the Cretas were partying all along. Well, Honda decides to crash the party, and the trick that it has up its sleeve is the BRV. So that's the Honda BRV and the front, the way it looks. Now, it was very important for the BRV's front to not end up looking like that of the Honda Brio or the Mobilio. I think it doesn't. This is where it starts looking SUV-ish, a little more muscular and beefier. Also gets projector headlamps, DRLs, and this large, huge chrome strip. Now, coming over to the side, this is when the car starts looking like the Honda Mobilio, yes, but then there are wider wheel arches and then, of course, also larger wheels. Now, speaking of wheels, the tires happen to be Primacy 3 ST1s with green written on them, which means they're going to have lower rolling resistance, which will result in better fuel efficiency and less tire noise. Moving over to the back, and before we move to the back, this shape is what Honda is calling as the solid motion pillar. This does tell us, standing on the outside, that there will be a third row which shouldn't be all too cramped up. Now at the back, Honda says it's the connected design, clearly because the two tail lamps are connected to each other. There's not too little of chrome, but then there's not too much of chrome either. Overall, from the back, it doesn't look a whole lot like an SUV. From the front, 3/4 it does. And this is when it starts looking a little like an MPV. Let's get inside. The car comes with engine start-stop button and keyless entry. Really handy. I think all cars these days should come with that. Just keep your key in the pocket, never bother about it, never lose it. You do get tilt adjustment, but no telescopic adjustment with the steering. Fair enough. It's time to get going now. Now, when it comes to the inside, the dash looks just the way the dash did on the new Amaze. Good, nice tactile feel to the buttons. Piano black finish. You don't get a display or a touch screen, which also means that there is no sat nav, and it also means that you don't get reverse parking camera. What you also don't get though is parking sensors at the back, which I think were pretty needed for a car of this size, a 7-seater, especially in city conditions. The car does get climate control, and you do have Bluetooth, which can play songs as well as connect to your phone. The Honda BRV stands for Bold Runabout Vehicle. The petrol engine comes mated with a 6-speed manual transmission. It's a completely newly developed transmission. And of course, the 1.5-liter diesel also gets a manual 6-speed transmission. You also get a CVT transmission on the BRV, comes with the petrol engine, and it's the first of its kind in this segment. Now, Honda cars have always been something that drive really well for me. So this steering here, it is neat looking, it's small and fits right in my hands. The clutch action is flawless, the gear shift throws are flawless, and the braking is really equally good. In terms of ride quality, well, it's not overtly soft, but then it's not overtly stiff either. The car holds the road at high speeds, under load or not, and the long overhang is not bouncing around when you go over bumps in a corner or anything. When it comes to NVH levels inside the cabin, I think they've come a long way in insulating the cabin from the noisy 1.5-liter diesel engine. That's the one that I'm driving right now. And overall, the tires also are running really quiet, so there's not much of noise onto the inside of the cabin. In the second row of the BRV, well, it's quite comfortable, to be honest. The knee room is fair enough. These front seats are wafer thin, so there's more space cooped out here. Headroom's not bad, of course, at all. You got 3 AC vents out here. You get 1-liter bottle holder at both the doors, and in fact, more than just a 1-liter bottle holder. And you see this small little kink in the window. Well, that really helps in not feeling all claustrophobic out here. So there's a wide view out the window. What's even interesting is this seat, which you can slide back, and then for added comfort, you can also recline the seats out here. You do get an armrest, a center armrest. To my liking, it's really sloping a whole lot downwards. And the other problem is, of course, I'm not sure if I can really call this seat as the third seat, with the armrest being my backrest and having no headrest. Otherwise, all the seats in this car get headrests. Well, in the third row seat of the Honda BRV, a 7-seater, and this is where the car really excels. Now, usually you feel a lot compromised when you're on the third row. Well, I have an armrest out here, which also comes with a bottle holder. And if I want to be sitting at the window, this huge piece of glass out here, which has been achieved because of the solid motion pillar that we saw from the outside. So there's no obstruction from the pillar in my vision out here. It's time to summarize what the BRV has been for me. Well, I'm in the beautiful city of Udaipur, and with me is my most favorite auto expert, Vikrant Singh. Thanks a lot for joining me here.
Thanks, Rohan.
Now, 90% localization is what this car is going to see. Will that be helping Honda price this car very aggressively? And if yes, then what variants are we really looking at?
I think the 90% localization will help the pricing. It should, for the petrol, I think it should start at about 8.5 or thereabouts and go up to maybe 11. And for the diesel, I think we're looking at about 9.5 to 12. In terms of variants, I think we should have 4 grades. We should have E at the start, followed by the S and then the V, and what we see here is the VX.
Do you think the BRV will be able to hold its ground when it comes to the battle of automatics in this segment?
I think the battle of automatics is a little complicated one in this segment. You've got the BRV, which gets a CVT, but only comes with a petrol engine. Then you've got a Duster, which comes with a diesel engine, but gets an AMT.
True.
And then you've got the Creta, which comes with an automatic in both petrol and diesel, but then those are torque converters. So it's very difficult to say who's going to really win the battle of automatics, but I think the Creta just has more options, right? It's got on both engines. So
I totally enjoyed the BRV, really honestly. But Honda says it's not a 7-seater. Honda says this is a 3-row configuration car.
Yes.
What's your take on that?
So I think Honda's not really saying that it's not a 7-seater, but I think they're shying away from calling it a 7-seater, right? Because they understand that it doesn't have that sort of width. But I think we as buyers in India would definitely see it as a 7-seater. If they price it well, because there is no other really oomph factor to the car, right? But if you get the pricing in, then at least there's some talking point.
I will leave the whole story to that. Thanks a lot for tuning into PowerDrift, guys. Do remember, if you got any questions, type in below in the comment section. We really love to answer them questions out there. And remember to subscribe to PowerDrift.
Yes, the 90% localization is important because given what the BRV is and the competition in terms of having the Creta and the